When I was a kid, my mother read me a book, Dr. Seuss, Horton Hears a Who. And there's a line from that book that's a simple line, but it's a very powerful one. A person's a person, no matter how small. Since those words are written, they've been used to remind us that the value of all life, even little lives. I'm grateful that I live in a place where little lives matter, and I'm grateful I live in a place where our ladies matter, and that violence against our ladies is unacceptable in any form. My name is Mike Holley. I'm the Montgomery County District Attorney. I'm here with my friend, Wesley Doolittle, Sheriff for Montgomery County. Along with Sheriff Doolittle and I are two of our best people. This is Chief Prosecutor Laura Hill and Detective Brandon Bartoskewitz. Ms. Hill is the lead prosecutor on this case that we'll discuss today, and Detective Bartoskewitz is the lead investigator for this case. We're going to talk about a case that was indicted yesterday. At the DA's office, we're somewhat reluctant to talk about pending cases, but sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's helpful. This case is unusual, and our community has an interest in this case. I personally have received a number of questions about it as I've attended events around the county. So let's begin. This is Jon Rueben Demeter, 25, a resident of the Woodlands. He worked as a delivery driver, or at least did at the time of the offense. He was arrested on February 23rd of this year by the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. Ladies and gentlemen, it's important to remember that Mr. Demeter is presumed innocent. These are allegations. He's been indicted based on probable cause, which is to say that a reasonable person would believe a crime had been committed and that the person accused committed it. But that's far cry from proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And until the state proves these allegations beyond a reasonable doubt, the presumption of innocence remains, and that presumption is important. It is important to us that Mr. Demeter receive a fair trial should we proceed to trial. Talk about the nature of the allegations. In general, the allegations are, and again, they are just allegations at this point, that Mr. Demeter provided a drug to a pregnant woman who he knew to be pregnant. He did so without her knowledge of the true nature of the drug, that drug caused the death of her unborn child, which is to say, he induced an abortion. Now, Texas has an abortion statute, and there's some statutory exceptions to the abortion provisions, but none would apply here or seem to apply here. We've also alleged that the behavior described was the intentional or knowing injury of a child. I'm going to talk about the first charge, performance of an abortion. In 2022, the Supreme Court in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization determined that the states were individually allowed to determine on the issue of abortion as they thought appropriate. Texas has duly enacted a statute in the Health and Safety Code which makes inducing an abortion a first-degree felony. Again, there are some exceptions to the statute as they relate to medical professionals. None would relate to a private person such as Mr. Demeter. The grand jury indicted Mr. Demeter for that offense, and here is the relevant language in the indictment. I'll read it in case you can't clearly see it. That in Montgomery County, Texas, Jon Rueben Demeter, hereinafter styled the defendant, heretofore on or about February 20, 2026, did then and there knowingly induce an abortion, to wit, by administering a substance, a drug, medicine, or other means, a deadly weapon, to AG. And AG's unborn child died as a result of that offense. And the defendant was not a licensed physician, and AG did not, in the exercise of reasonable medical judgment, have a life-threatening physical condition aggravated by, caused by, or arising from a pregnancy that placed AG at risk of death or posed a serious risk of substantial impairment of a major bodily function unless the abortion was performed or induced. We believe that this may be the first use of this statute under these circumstances in the state of Texas. We believe this is the lawful and appropriate charge for this conduct. The grand jury also indicted Mr. Demeter for injury to a child. Here's the language of that indictment. That in Montgomery County, Texas, Jon Rueben Demeter, hereinafter styled the defendant, heretofore on or about February 20th, 2026, did then and there intentionally or knowingly cause serious bodily injury to PMG, a child 14 years of age or younger, by administering a substance, a drug, medicine, or other means, a deadly weapon, to AG without her knowledge or consent. Both of these offenses are first-degree felonies. In Texas, that means the range of punishment is 5 years to 99 years or life. A $10,000 fine may also be imposed. A Texas jury can probate any sentence for up to 10 years. I want to talk about a different concept, maybe not familiar to most, that's relevant in this case. In para materia. This case is unusual for a number of reasons. I would like to say, though, that although the legality of abortion has changed, even within my lifetime in this country, it has never been lawful for someone to perform an abortion in the manner against a woman and against her consent of this nature. That has never been the law. It has always been illegal. So we carefully considered what charges would be most appropriate in this case, and we genuinely wrestled with this decision. We wanted it to be the right decision. One of the concepts that arose in our discussions is this idea of in para materia. It's a Latin phrase that means upon the same matter. And it's a principle of statutory construction. It applies when there are overlapping statutes, and it's a requirement that you apply the more specific of the statute. So, for example, a person who forges a driver's license can be charged with an offense that's designed for that behavior rather than the general forgery offense. Or, another example, a politician who's dishonest on their contributions and expenditures report is required to be prosecuted under the election code rather than the general perjury statute. In this case, the behavior that is alleged to have occurred appears to be precisely addressed by the abortion statute. And it's our job to follow the law where it directs us, and we believe the law directs us here. I will say that there will be some legal scholars that differ on this issue, and it's unsettled in some respects. But we are erring on the side of caution to ensure that we do this the right way. This was my decision. Talk about the process briefly, what you can expect going forward. The case is filed in the 221st District Court, the Honorable Judge Lisa Mychalk presiding. The next court date will be tomorrow, May 21st at 1:30. We expect this to be a preliminary hearing. We anticipate the case will be reset to a date later this summer. And we continue to share information with the defense in the case. As I mentioned, the lead prosecutor in the case is Chief Prosecutor Laura Hill. She is currently my Chief of Public Integrity, but she was present at the outset of this case and will remain so during its pendency. Detective Brandon Bartoskewitz is the lead investigator on this case. He is representative, though, of many very talented men and women at the Sheriff's Office who have worked on this and done excellent work. The defense attorney is Mr. Aaron Holt. He's an experienced defense attorney from Houston. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm grateful for experienced counsel. It's important that every Texan is well represented in criminal matters, particularly when the consequences are so significant as they are here. And speaking of Mr. Demeter's defense, I want to say again, it's important that he retains the presumption of innocence, and he will retain that presumption of innocence until and if we can prove these allegations beyond reasonable doubt. I'm about to turn it over to Sheriff Doolittle in just a second, but I want to say how grateful I am, and every man and woman in my office is, to law enforcement in Montgomery County. We have some of the best law enforcement in the country. Sheriff Doolittle in particular has done an amazing job as the sheriff of this county, and I'm very personally grateful to him. I'm also grateful to Detective Brandon Bartoskewitz and Chief Prosecutor Laura Hill. I've known these excellent public servants for a long time. They're the best at what they do. I'm grateful for their compassion and their skill and their integrity in serving the people of this county and the cause of justice. So, Sheriff Doolittle.
Thank you, Mike. Montgomery County Sheriff's Office has had a long-standing relationship with the District Attorney's Office. I appreciate that relationship. And like you talked about, working cases like this, it takes a team. Nobody does it alone. I often say that we're better together. I want to read a statement here real quick. Let me be absolutely clear that here in Montgomery County, if you take a life, you will be held accountable. Presley May's life was intentionally and tragically taken from her and will not stand for it. She had 10 fingers, 10 toes, and an entire lifetime of possibilities ahead of her. That future was stolen before it ever had a chance to begin. We'll not rest, and we will pursue every lead, uncover every answer, and ensure that those responsible are brought to justice. And through it all, we'll stand as a relentless voice for Presley and for every victim who can no longer speak for themselves. I'd like to talk about the investigative timeline just a little bit. We were made aware of this case on February 21st of 2026. Our office received a call. Detective Bartoskewitz and his team responded, and they learned that the mother may have been giving something that caused her to terminate her pregnancy without her knowledge and against her will. That baby, Presley May, was stillborn at the hospital, weighed about 55 grams. As we said, she had 10 fingers and 10 toes. She was developed, about 14 weeks along. Our Major Crimes Division conducted their investigation using multiple investigative tools. They used search warrants, different things like that, interviews, just good police work. Went back to the residence, obtained evidence. That investigation revealed that Jon Rueben Demeter obtained abortion medication through the internet and had it shipped to his home. He covertly crushed that medication and mixed it in a water bottle with a liquid IV packet, and this was done with a specific intent to cause the death of the child. Rueben Demeter was arrested on February 23rd and has been in the Montgomery County Jail since his arrest. So be happy to take any questions that y'all have and to be able to clear a few things up, whether it be the detective or the prosecutor can answer.
We'll make one more comment before we do the questions. Just real quick, our families here, they're not going to be making a statement today, but we were talking beforehand. There have been some ugly things said online about our family. They don't deserve any of that. We know the facts, and we know that this young lady is brave and strong and did nothing wrong except perhaps to be associated with this gentleman. She doesn't deserve any of that criticism, and it's unwarranted. And those who criticize her, especially publicly, just reveal the evil in their heart. The sheriff and I have talked about this is a county of consequences, and lives matter here. Every life matters, even the little lives. And it's important to us that we protect women from any violence. In fact, everybody in this county, men and women, young and old, adults and children, and even the unborn, they matter to us. Everybody deserves the protection of law, and the sheriff and I are committed to ensuring that they do have the protection of law. We would prefer that our services never be needed, but occasionally the sheriff's badge and the grand jury's decision and the prosecutor's voice in the courtroom are needed, and that's needed here. So we do appreciate you being here. We will take any questions that you have.
I just wanted clarification. You said the first use of the statute. Can you reiterate what
Yes, so the abortion statute, the criminal offense, first degree offense for the commission of an abortion, we believe this is the first time in the state of Texas it has been used to prosecute an adult in the state.
I'm sorry, what?
The first time that this statute has been used to prosecute anyone in the state.
He was initially taking it on an ag assault charge, right?
He was.
Can you talk about switching it now to the abortion charge? And
Sure.
I guess that one goes away.
I appreciate that question. Our initial charge was aggravated assault, deadly weapon, serious bodily injury, with our lady as the victim. We debated the charge for extensive period of time, and it was a good discussion. The benefit of being a prosecutor, benefit a prosecutor has over being law enforcement is that we can make decisions in the cold light of day after careful reflection. We studied the issue very closely. We looked at a variety of statutes, and we determined this was the most appropriate one. So the initial charge won't be pending. It will be these two charges that go forward to trial if we indeed go forward to trial.
And he's been held with no bond. What is his bond now? Since
He will be now entitled to a bond. He will no doubt approach and should approach Judge Mychalk to see if a bond can be set. He is entitled to a bond. We'll discuss what our recommendation will be, but Judge Mychalk will make that decision. Likely tomorrow, I would suspect that there may be that occurring.
And for the law enforcement, well, all law enforcement, but for the sheriff's office side, what have you found in terms of just his communications with possibly other women, other possible victims? Is there any indication of that?
I think that what we would say is that, like, it's still under investigation, so we don't want to talk about other potential victims and things like that at this moment. But what we would tell folks in the community, if they feel like they've been a victim, to contact our office, give us an opportunity to investigate. If someone is in a domestic relationship where they feel that they need help, to contact the Montgomery County Women's Center and to seek assistance to prevent situations like this from manifesting.
Are you hopeful this serves as like a watershed moment or eye opener to people of the penalties of reacting or doing something like the suspect is accused.
For sure. Abortion is an issue that's controversial and it's treated differently in different places. I would say, as we were talking about, this offense would be guilty even in the state of California, the nature of the offense and the way it was conducted. But yeah, we want people to understand that in Texas, life matters, even the unborn, especially the unborn in many cases. And that if somebody's considering doing this to a woman, they should think twice, especially if they're in our county, because the sheriff will act, we will act, and we will seek accountability for those behaviors.
Have you been in contact with anyone about any potential charges to the folks who sent it through the mail? The suspected people who sent the medication through the mail or however he got his hands on it?
There's an ongoing investigation there, but because it's ongoing, we would prefer not to talk about it this time. Is that fair to say, gentlemen?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So possibly more charges related to that?
We'll continue to look at that. Yeah, I would not anticipate more charges for Mr. Demeter than what are present today. Other question?
Can you provide more details about what were the legal elements to think about these charges as the right ones?
Sure. Well, it's a good question, and we laid open the penal code and other provisions that might apply. We discussed them. We had professional discussions about what would be appropriate for the circumstances. And frankly, and I'll be the first to admit, I did not consider the abortion statute initially. I just didn't. It is rarely used. In fact, this is the first time. But when we found that statute and considered the way the law applies in these circumstances, it was clear that this is the most fitting charge, and it became very obvious to go forward that way.
I think we have the search warrant that details this, but on camera, can you explain kind of what was found at the house when everyone went and searched?
I think I'd let Bart, you talk about a little bit of it, not specific evidence. We still have to have a trial and preserve the integrity of that trial. The things that are laid out in the search warrant, you can talk about some of that.
Sure. We found evidence consistent with that of abortion-inducing drugs being present in the residence where we served the search warrant.
Just out in the open, or?
I can't discuss the nature of how they were found, but yes, it was consistent with the account that we had heard based on our witness interviews.
And the last question, just reading over that, it sounds like our victim lost her baby one day, and then the next day he's arrested with his own children.
It's within 2 days, I believe,
2 days.
that of the abortion that the defendant was arrested. And I want to say again, this is an unusual set of circumstances. I suspect, I'm not talking about Mr. Demeter here, but I suspect this has occurred on other occasions. And it may be a mystery to the woman, it may be a surprise, and they may never know. But in this instance, our woman, and just, again, just brave young lady, gets medical help, medical professionals respond very quickly, appropriately, and then the sheriff's office just did an exemplary job in determining what had happened, and we believe that these allegations will be proven beyond reasonable doubt at trial.
And Clary, the baby would have been named Presley May.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Any other questions?
Have you guys involved the FBI or FDA or any of those guys at this point, or is that something you're looking at?
I would tell you that the Attorney General's office has been involved in this in terms of the procurement of the medications. Detective Bartoskewitz and the Sheriff's Office are using all the resources needed, to include federal resources as needed, to investigate the procurement of the drug. But because it's an open investigation, we'd rather not get into details. I hope it's appropriate here.
Do you know how long before this he placed the order on that website?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was several weeks before this occurred.
Several weeks?
Yes.
Any other questions? No? Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you paying the honor of your presence and listening to us. I just want to say again, grateful for the men and women, the professionals that attend to this very serious matter. Mr. Demeter, again, has the presumption of innocence until we prove this case. Also grateful for the lady at the center of this, for her bravery and courage and the suffering that she's going through. We hope to help her regardless of the outcome. She's always going to be first in our hearts, and we will be committed to her. So thank you again for your presence.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.